A local woman lost $600,000 in a romance scam that she said involved Elon Musk.
They hear that voice. They hear Elon Musk's voice, and they know it's his voice.
I'm Darlene Jones. Action 9 shows you how to make sure your online crush is really who they say they are. And Local County just decided how to spend some of the federal cash it has left over from the pandemic, how it could help you pay off medical debt. Live starting at 4 on Eyewitness News.
This is Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 4. Coverage you can count on.
Right now and all new at 4, why a local school district could lose funding for school resource officers. Plus,
2, 1, ignition, and lift off.
The mission that launched from our Space Coast less than an hour ago, and a deadly shooting in this neighborhood.
It's a quiet neighborhood. Sometimes we don't even close our cars.
Next, what neighbors saw after the gunfire. This is where Orange County deputies found the man shot to death. Good afternoon. I'm Darlene Jones.
I'm Greg Wormuth. We first told you about the story through our WFTV News app. Investigators found the man dead last night along Epsom Oaks Way near Town Center Boulevard and the 417. Channel 9's Daryl Matthews has been out there all day. He's live there for us this afternoon. Daryl, you spoke to the victim's family.
Yeah, I did, Greg, briefly, and you can understand that they are grieving right now, so they did not want to speak on camera. But like the rest of the community, they're still reeling all this information that happened last night as deputies release it. Now, within the last hour, deputies did release the identity of the victim. Out of respect for the family, we will not share that on air. They did tell us that this was an isolated incident. We're live in Orange County. Daryl Matthews, Channel 9, Eyewitness News.
Some sad news to report here this afternoon. A Marion County police dog that was shot in the line of duty has died. Deputies took Leo, who you see here, with them when they responded to a domestic incident on Saturday. Investigators say a man at the scene started shooting when they arrived, and Leo was shot while running to protect his handler and other deputies on the scene. Leo joined the agency in 2021.
That is heartbreaking. Well, a satellite is headed into orbit right now.
Take a look at this scene. You can see the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket with that satellite taking off less than an hour ago. Channel 9's Melanie Holtz is live from our Space Coast where that liftoff happened. And Mel, this is the 17th launch for this first stage booster used in this mission.
That is reusability on display, and SpaceX certainly isn't wasting any time with these launches. We could see 100 of them before the end of this year. Headed back home to the Northeast right now, and we're likely to see at least one Starlink mission, maybe more than one, before the launch of Crew 8 next month. Live here in Brevard County, Melanie Holtz, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Mel, beautiful blue skies. Thank you. It is a busy week for the space industry, too. As you heard Mel mention, the lunar lander that launched from our Space Coast is just 2 days away from landing on the moon. A Falcon 9 rocket lifted off with that lander from the Kennedy Space Center last week. This marked NASA's second commercial lunar lander mission of the year. The first attempt fell short when the lander failed to make it to the moon's surface.
Greg, the Flagler County Commission wants to cut funding for school resource officers. The county gives the district $1.4 million a year, and $1 million is put toward the officers. Channel 9's Demi Johnson is live in Flagler County. And Demi, right now, this is just being discussed.
It is, Darlene, and again, these are just very early budget discussions, but what it could mean is the district having to pick up the $1 million that it's used to getting from the county. It could also mean possibly cutting some deputies from their positions and replacing them with guardians or a security company, and Sheriff Rick Staley says none of those are good options. And again, no formal decisions have been made. The county and district are scheduled to meet and discuss this on February 28th. Coming up at 6, we'll tell you some concerns we've already heard from the school district about possibly having to pick up these costs. Live in Flagler County, Demi Johnson, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Demi, thank you. Breaking news right now in Osceola County. Here's a look at the scene. Southbound lanes of the turnpike shut down because of a crash. This is from the State Transportation Camera. This is happening in this particular area during rush hour that is going to cause some problems near mile marker 237. We are working to gather more information on what happened and whether anyone was injured, but we can tell you this is a nightmare for commuters. The southbound turnpike shut down near mile marker 237. An update as soon as we get more information for you. 2 men are now charged with second-degree murder in the deadly shooting after the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl parade. That shooting killed a mother and hurt 22 others last week. Missouri prosecutors say the suspects have been in the hospital themselves since this shooting. Police have said a dispute among several people led to the gunfire.
The mother of a Russian opposition leader is pleading for Vladimir Putin to return her son's body. Alexei Navalny died in prison last week. His mother wants his body so she can bury him. His widow claims Russian authorities are holding onto his body to cover up how he died. The opposition leader fiercely criticized Putin.
And this man will now spend 40 years in prison for the murder of his wife. Ji Shen-yang pleaded guilty in a Seminole County courtroom today. He slashed his wife's throat in 2022 because she burned his passport. Channel 9's Q McCrae was in the courtroom when Yang read a letter to his mother.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments in a case that could impact small business owners. A North Dakota convenience store owner sued over hundreds of thousands of dollars in debit fees paid since opening his store back in 2018. The government says the deadline to fight the rule was 2017, and the owner does not have a case. The court will decide now whether business owners can challenge federal regulations that are more than 6 years old. A proposal to authorize chaplains on school campuses is now moving forward. Districts and charter schools would be allowed to have a chaplain on campus for support services and programs for students. The measure advanced in the state Senate today. Chaplains would be required to go through a background screening. A similar House bill is ready to go before the full chamber there.
State senators have approved a revamped bill that would require public schools to teach communism and its history. Senators agreed with House lawmakers that lessons should be taught to grades as early as kindergarten. They say the curriculum would have to be age appropriate and include teaching various concepts of communism. The bill's sponsor says young people are viewing communism right now in a positive light.
If we fail to educate children on what this truly means, the pain, suffering, and sorrow associated with it, we're failing in our prime cause as parents, as leaders in the community.
Public schools currently teach communism in a 7th grade civics and government class and in high school social studies courses.
A man serving time for a crime he says he didn't commit is fighting for his freedom. Coming up and new here at 4, what further is delaying his push for release? And
at that moment I started feeling suspicious.
This man says he lost hundreds of dollars to a moving scam. Next, and new at 4, the red flags you should look out for when hiring a mover.
Well, take a look at this live view from Daytona. A little bit breezy, a little bit cool, but overall, 2 thumbs up. Great weather. How long we keep it this nice before our next cold front and chance for rain arrives.
Sky Witness 9 on Channel 9 Eyewitness News, bringing you closer to the scene during live breaking news. Sponsored by Attorney Dan Newland.
Severe weather updates on WFTV are driven by Toyota of Orlando and Toyota of Claremont.
Florida leads the country when it comes to moving scams. New federal numbers show people in Florida reported nearly 1,900 scams last year, and that's nearly half the scams reported nationwide in all of 2023. Once again, we're number 1. Now, despite those numbers, there is some good news. Reports of moving scams overall are down.
That's thanks in part to efforts to crack down on those scams. New at 4, Channel 9's Giovanni Diaz is live in Orlando. And Giovanni, you spoke to a local company that's part of the effort.
That's right. They are Good Greek. They're working with the federal government to help crack down on moving scams. And we know moving can be stressful, but before you put all your stuff inside of a truck, you want to be careful. Yeah, and the CEO of Good Greek also told us you should look for this seal. That means that the moving company is actually nationally certified. And coming up in the next hour, avoid becoming a victim. Reporting in Orlando, Giovanni Diaz, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
The Marion County Animal Shelter is still at critical capacity this afternoon. We told you earlier this month the shelter took in dozens of animals from an animal abuse case, increasing the number of dogs there to more than 300. You can see here in this video the shelter has put 2 or 3 dogs in a kennel. We checked back in this week. About 100 pets were adopted last week, but the shelter also took in about 170 animals.
Hopefully people that see that are looking can help out both the shelter and the pet.
A forever friend.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Both of you have, don't you? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Miley, a little over 15. We just lost Lucky
on Friday.
15. So yeah, they just love. They know that they're in a better situation. Here's what's going on right now. Great weather outside. We have the flags flying and a north wind in Daytona Beach with 62 degrees. It's been a gorgeous day today. Quiet weather pattern. The next 2 days are dry with low humidity. The temperatures drop quickly at night and warm up quickly during the day, but we're kind of holding back on some of the warmer weather with only 70 right now in downtown. We have 66 over in Palm Bay, Melbourne, and look how low the dew points are. Anytime dew points are in the 20s and 30s, it's a sign of the dry season and the fact that it's not going to be raining anytime soon. Winter Garden and Horizon West, that ever burgeoning area on the west side of Orange County. Temperatures falling quickly into the upper 40s by early in the morning tomorrow. Eventually back into the mid 40s, about where we were today. I had frost in 35 in my subdivision up in Apopka this morning, so it was very cold. And again, we'll get patchy frost in this area early on in the morning. It was 35 also up in Ocala. Melbourne tomorrow, Melbourne, Palm Bay, in the Floridana Beach area, temperatures getting back only about where they were today. In the upper 60s, still a bit shy of our average in the mid 70s. Daytime high, another 70. Just about perfect. I wish we could break this out in the middle of July, August, or pick a month in the middle of summer. Our next front will be arriving starting up north Friday morning before, well, just a little bit after daybreak, I think, and then coming through Metro Orlando and beginning to break up the farther south that it goes because the atmosphere is so dry right now, and we're not really going to have a big return flow ahead of this. So what moisture we have will kind of get wrung out as it moves through the area. Here is Deltona and Lake Helen on our more northern side of our coverage area. 70% chance you get some rain on Friday late morning. And then the farther south we go, here's Palm Bay, only a slight chance of the rain holds together as it moves in, but we got great weather either way. 7-day forecast, weekend always in view, 70, then 74. Rain chance overall, about 50 to 60% of the area will get rain, especially the northern half. The weekend looks outstanding as we make up for last weekend's washout. And if you like the 80s, you're going to like it by the middle part of next week, Darlene.
All right, thanks, Tom. A local woman has a heartbreaking story about a romance scam that cost her elderly mother her life savings. Action 9 looks at how the crooks got away with about $600,000 using a famous name.
Plus, a woman who has only been here in Central Florida for 2 years is already making her mark on our community. Coming up, how she's lifting up women of color in Central Florida. And many car insurance companies offer roadside assistance, but is it worth it? Next, why using that service actually could cost you.
Go for a spin.
Could get exciting around here.
Be nice to me, Wheel.
And see
Well, looky there.
where the wheel takes us.
Where am I going? Where am I going? You sound like a kid in the back seat of the car.
Brought to you by Parish Healthcare.
Car insurance companies are offering customers roadside assistance, and it may seem convenient, but it can actually hurt you in the long run. Channel 9 consumer advisor Clark Howard explains why you may want to avoid using that service entirely. Very useful. Thank you, Clark. And Clark Howard helps our Action 9 team look out for consumers like you. He has posted even more valuable resources online at clark.com.
The federal government is investing $1.5 billion in a company to build computer chips here in the U.S. Global Foundries would expand its operations in New York and Vermont, creating thousands of jobs. The White House says the investment guarantees other countries like China and Russia don't develop an economic advantage over the U.S. More members of the Jewish community say they don't feel safe. Still ahead here at 4, how a local rabbi says you can help.
Plus the measles outbreak right here in Florida. And
This building is where justice is supposed to prevail.
This man insists he's serving time for a crime he did not commit. The new testimony now in his favor.
This Tower Cam Shot, sponsored by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
This is Channel 9 Eyewitness News at 4. Coverage you can count on.
A man has been serving decades behind bars for a home invasion he says he didn't commit. So today, he headed back to the courtroom in his fight for freedom.
The evidence proved that he's innocent.
Next, the key witness who failed to show up. And we were in the Seminole County courtroom today for Anthony Walker's hearing. Good afternoon, I'm Greg Warmoth.
I'm Darlene Jones. He has been in prison now for the last 20 years after being hit with a 30-year sentence. Channel 9 Seminole County reporter Jeff Coolidge is live at the courthouse in Sanford. Jeff, his family says Walker was not even there at the time of the crime.
And Darlene, that key witness gave not only an affidavit, but also a deposition with prosecutors claiming this was all a setup and that Anthony Walker took the fall. But the witness never showed up today, which is delaying that testimony and this case. Now, this hearing will be continued until April as they hope to track down Lloyd Scott and get him to testify. Reporting live in Sanford, Jeff Coolidge, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Jeff. We want to take you back out to the breaking news we told you about in Osceola County. You can see traffic is moving again there in at least one lane. This is in the southbound lane there. This is a live look at the scene of the turnpike where that crash happened near Kissimmee Park Road. We are still working right now, reaching out to the Florida Highway Patrol, trying to figure out what caused the crash and whether anyone here was hurt.
A moving ceremony for a Palm Bay priest who was murdered nearly a month ago happened earlier today. People gathered for Father Robert Hefner's vigil last night, and he was laid to rest today. Investigators say Brandon Kappas shot and killed very popular father and his sister Sally last month. Police say Kappas also shot and killed his grandfather and wounded 2 Palm Bay police officers in a shootout. Kappas was killed by law enforcement. One of 2 Florida insurance companies pushing for a major rate hike will make its case to regulators tomorrow. Castle Key wants to increase premiums 53%. The company, which mainly covers condos, points to cost of operating here in the state. Another company, Amica Mutual Insurance, had a hearing this morning and proposed a 54% increase. So far, no decisions have been made.
Greg, right now, doctors are monitoring this measles cases here in the state of Florida. An elementary school near Fort Lauderdale is now reporting 5 students infected with the measles. 9 cases have also been reported in the Philadelphia area since December among people who were not vaccinated. So far this year, at least 1 case has been reported in a dozen states.
We have to have very high, 95% or greater immunity within a population in order for this virus that's like a heat-seeking missile to not be able to find someone who's susceptible.
The Centers for Disease Control requires the measles vaccine for children to attend public school. However, parents can request a religious or medical exemption.
It is hard to forget this large balloon spotted floating across the country last year. The White House confirmed it was a spy balloon from China, and now there's a new effort to improve how those devices are tracked. Channel 9's Kirsten Garris read through this new proposal today.
The federal government plans to invest nearly $6 billion to make sure every American has safe drinking water. Right now, 2 million Americans are living without running water. The funding includes upgrades to water treatment plants and sanitation systems. It will also continue to work on removing every lead pipe here in the U.S. Greg?
And Darlene, state lawmakers are looking to overhaul state energy laws. They are moving forward with bills that would address natural gas pipelines and call for a study of using advanced nuclear power technologies. The bills would also get rid of parts of current state law about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Well, the number of people in the Jewish community who feel unsafe in the U.S. just saw an alarming jump.
That's according to a new report from the American Jewish Committee. Channel 9 Sam Martello spoke with leaders in our local Jewish community about the concerning numbers and what Central Florida can do about it. They told us they plan to host a special event in March. People will be able to speak with an Israeli actor and news anchor who many have called a hero amid the Israeli-Hamas war. You can find details for that event on our website, WFTV.com.
The Alabama Supreme Court has ruled that frozen embryos outside of the womb are people. That's under state law. The ruling came after a patient accessed a freezer storing frozen embryos at an Alabama fertility clinic. The patient picked up multiple embryos and mistakenly dropped and destroyed them. The state's high court says that patient can now be held liable in a wrongful death lawsuit. And now some worry it could put access to fertility treatments at greater risk.
There's now a bipartisan task force in the U.S. House to look at artificial intelligence. The committee will determine how lawmakers can ensure America leads the world in AI innovation. It will also consider safeguards from current and emerging AI threats. There are 12 Democrats and Republicans each on the committee. A project to widen and improve a busy Osceola County road got underway today. The $107 million project will expand Neptune Road north between Parton Settlement Road and Kings Crest Road. It's a nearly mile-and-a-half stretch. Crews will make the road 4 lanes there in the area and add a bike lane and even a 12-foot shared use path on both sides. It's expected to take 2 years to finish up. Part of a Geneva road is now dedicated to a Seminole County deputy who died in the line of duty.
Yeah, the sign was unveiled today for Deputy Sheriff Eugene Stetson Gregory Memorial Highway. The deputy was killed in 1998 while responding to an aggravated assault call involving an armed person suffering a mental health crisis. The Memorial Highway stretches along State Road 46 from Lake Murray Boulevard to C.S. Lee Park there in Geneva. A more than 5,000-pound satellite is headed right for Earth. Coming up, what scientists expect to happen when it gets close to us. But first,
that was, I believe, the real start of my journey and my story.
The journey that took this woman from homelessness to a life of helping others. Tom?
Well, it's a beautiful dry day along the coast of Brevard County, but it's been anything but dry overall this entire winter. I'm updating your wet statistics and when rain returns there. Greg?
And Tom stocks down on Wall Street today. Here is a look at the final numbers.
There are easily hundreds of foundations here in the Central Florida area, and they're all having a huge impact on the organizations they choose to invest in. The Poinsett Foundation is one of them, led by a woman who's not a Central Florida native, but has put down roots here and made a mark through philanthropy. And that room we interviewed Mia in is actually something that she worked to make happen at the Girl Scouts Council here near downtown Orlando. They have a room now set up honoring trailblazing Black women here in our local community. She said this is something she thought was important to make that happen. She's received a number of accolades and awards for her philanthropy. We have gathered more stories about other Central Florida philanthropists here in the community. Join us this Sunday, February 18th at 12:30 for our special Black Philanthropy, Time, Talent, and Treasure.
The city of Orlando continues Black History Month with a community celebration later tonight. Tonight's event gets underway in about 15 minutes or so at Camping World Stadium. There will be entertainment, music, and food, and also the debut of the City Beautiful Voices, which features city employees. The event runs until 8 o'clock. Beautiful weather for it, too. Automaker Stellantis is recalling nearly 200,000 Jeeps due to a possible crash risk. Federal safety officials say a software error could cause the defrosting system to malfunction on you, and that could decrease a driver's visibility, increase the risk of a crash. That recall includes 2021 through 2024 Jeep Wranglers and 2022 to 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokees. A large satellite is returning to Earth more than a decade after its mission ended.
The 5,000-pound satellite will make a fierce return starting tomorrow. The European Space Agency says ERS-2 will burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. It's expected to break apart about 50 miles above the surface of the Earth. Some fragments could reach the surface, likely, though, falling into the ocean. The chance of getting hit by space debris is less than 1 in 100 billion. Very
think
slim.
it's, yeah, pretty high.
Yeah.
Well, great weather here. We've had some pretty good rain in spurts here the last couple months or so. It was really wet, though, in December and January, but it's gorgeous now. Here's a live view from Cocoa Beach. We've got a beautiful day. We had a nice launch earlier this afternoon, 66 degrees with a north wind. If that's too cool, don't go anywhere. Next week, we're back in the 80s in parts of the area. Right now, we're at a very pleasant 69 Sanford. That's at the Orlando Sanford International Airport. By the way, most of these sensors are at local airports, kind of where they have the instruments that are all calibrated by NOAA and are usually running most of the night, most of the time. Here are lows for later this evening in the mid to upper 40s. We had about 44 in Orlando early today. It was 35 up in Apopka. Yes, we had frost. 36 up in Ocala. You had 35 also earlier this morning. For Melbourne and Palm Bay, it's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. We're still going to be well shy of our average, which is 75 degrees. Instead, getting close to the upper 60s and holding, again, picture perfect weather. Low humidity, the wind's not very gusty as high pressure starts building in, and this is making way for a quiet weather pattern for the next couple of days. We'll still keep the cool weather at night, but very nice in the afternoon. Here's an example of some of that rainfall I mentioned. Orlando, 7.5 inches of rain over the winter season. That's a little bit above average, and we were getting behind by about an inch until we had the weekend rain. Now we kicked ourselves back into the surplus department, but Melbourne, you had a record amount of rain, a little over an inch in one day on Sunday, but nearly 13 inches of rain. That's twice the normal amount of rain for the normally dry winter season in Brevard County and throughout the area, but that's kind of how things have been with this El Nino pattern. We expect it to be wetter than average for most of the area. As we head through Thursday, still dry weather persists, and then here comes our next cold front, which will have a line of showers and maybe a quick heavy downpour moving through during the latter half of the day Friday, but it's not going to stick around all weekend. In fact, this next weekend looks outstanding, making up for the last weekend. 7-day forecast, 70, then 74. I've got a chance for rain on Friday. And then, Martha, it is going to be outstanding weather generally over the next 7 days.
Cannot wait. Tom, thanks so much. Well, a local woman has a heartbreaking story of a romance scam that cost her elderly mother hundreds of thousands of dollars. All new at 5, Action 9 looks at how the crooks were able to get some $600,000 and a warning from a reformed scam artist about how not to get tricked. And all new at 6, nearly 700 titles have been removed from school libraries, and this is only the beginning. Coming up, how the burden of book bans is weighing on the local school district. I'll see you at 5 with Greg.
Next Jeopardy.
Tell us about your prep.
In the hospital, I always have a pen light with me. I found that it kind of simulates the buzzer weight pretty well.
Do you have your pen light with you today?
I don't. Probably a good thing, because it's been a lot of people's mouths.
Brought to you by McCoy Federal Credit Union.
Many of us have a lot of videos in different formats and pictures that we want to save. And in today's Local Steals and Deals, Mary Narducci has a new idea that could help. Orange County is going to pay off medical bills for thousands of local residents. Coming up, all new at 5, where the cash is coming from and who may qualify to get their debt wiped clean. And Orange County is struggling to answer 911 calls on time. All new at 5, the new solution to help you when you call 911. And next, all new at 5 and only on 9, the newly released documents that shed new light on the day an innocent 6-year-old was caught in the crossfire of a deadly gang shooting.